Hey, what is up guys, this is Thunderstruck115, and today I'm going to be taking a look at a video by Tim Hansen that is, to put it lightly, pretty bad. Now, this was uploaded back in 2019, but for whatever reason, it only just hit my recommended now. Why? I don't know, but it was, very interesting. The title of the video we're going to be looking at is called Why Black Ops 4 Zombies Failed. Now, I understand Black Ops 4 was a pretty controversial game, but I find a lot of the points that he makes in his video are very ignorant and unconvincing. Now, before we get into this, for those that are worried that this is going to become my new style of content, don't be. This probably is not going to become a regular thing unless y'all just really want me to. But I figured it was worth responding to this one. Alright, anyways, let's get right into this shit.
Dating all the way back to 2008 with World at War until now, in 2019 with Black Ops 4, Call of Duty Zombies has been quite the endeavor. It's been a roller coaster. There have been ups, there have been downs, and throughout it all, we've been provided for over a decade entertainment, friendships, memories, and most notably, the best storyline in any video game I've ever played.
The zombie storyline is certainly interesting, but if you think this is the best story in any video game ever, do yourself a favor, go play Spec Ops The Line real quick. Believe me, it'll be worth it.
Hog Der Toten not only marks the end of Black Ops 4 Zombies, but the Ether zombie storyline at large, which is still very hard to process. Being a fan of something for over a decade and having it end so abruptly, it's very hard. It has now been weeks since Hog Der Toten released, the hype has died down and the dust has settled. And I'm going to be analyzing Black Ops 4 Zombies as a whole. It's a very tough pill to swallow, but Black Ops 4 Zombies failed.
Failed at what? Failed its math homework? Failed to initialize NVML? You gotta be more specific, dude.
And it wasn't for one particular reason. In fact, there were many. Black Ops 4 Zombies simply failed to do many things that previous Treyarch Zombies installments have done so easily in the past. It had a little bit to do with the story, a little bit to do with the gameplay, and a lot to do with the developers. And please, allow me this before you pull out the pitchforks and the torches. I never thought BO4 was a terrible game.
And yet this video stands in stark contradiction to that statement.
Put it in a vacuum, devoid of context, don't compare it to previous Treyarch games. It's not terrible, but in contrast to other Zombies games, it just didn't hold up. Sure, I have fond memories of this game, the boys and I playing late nights and making some pretty interesting content on my channel, and a lot of the maps, disregarding the gameplay and the engine, were actually very well designed. Not everything about this game is terrible, but there was a lot of room for improvement, and it was largely disappointing. Before we get any further, though, let's rewind to Black Ops 3. It seemed like a stopping point for Treyarch. Revelations had wrapped everything up, and it was back to the drawing board. Until inevitably Activision called them up and said, "Hey, Treyarch, these Black Ops titles, man, pretty damn good, so I expect you to make a Black Ops 4, goodbye."
Yeah, it's Call of fucking Duty. They make a new game every year, in case you've been in a coma for like the past decade and a half. And ever since they moved to the 3-year development cycle, every 3 years, Treyarch has to make a new Call of Duty game. Black Ops 3 released in 2015, so obviously they're going to make a new Call of Duty in 2018. And since Zombies is a major part of why people love Treyarch's COD games so much, did you really expect them to not make Zombies for this new game? Like, the common sense here with this man is just in the fucking negatives.
Hey, the campaign's coming along pretty well so far. Look how successful Fortnite's doing. I want to replicate that. I want a Battle Royale. Let's make it. Okay. Well, we've already spent months developing this campaign. We're far into the progression of it. Would you like us to scrap it and have wasted all of that time? Yes. Yes to all of that. You realize now that our multiplayer has no meaning and carries little to no merit because of an absence of a campaign, right? And you realize now that with all of our attention going towards Blackout, we have little to no time to develop multiplayer, right? We're fine. We're fucking Treyarch.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Activision who made Treyarch ditch the campaign and instead make a Battle Royale mode, and not Vonderhaar. Like, I thought this was just common knowledge in the Zombies community, but apparently not. Also, what the hell does the campaign and multiplayer have to do with fucking zombies, besides maybe the weapons that you'll use?
Oh shit, I forgot about zombies. How do you expect Black Ops 4 Zombies to have succeeded under these conditions, under all of these budget cuts, and with no passion anymore? That's really the crux of everything. Treyarch did not have enough manpower, did not have enough resources, did not have enough passion for the game anymore to make anything anywhere close to Black Ops 3. What we ended up getting was a rushed, unpolished, and somehow overly complicated zombies mode.
Okay, maybe I can see them lacking resources, but passion? No, they had plenty of that. In fact, the existence of the Chaos story completely disproves that statement. They were very passionate about zombies with Black Ops 4. It just happens that you and a bunch of other YouTubers just decided to shit all over it because, it's different. Also, I find it very fucking ironic that you call Black Ops 4 Zombies overcomplicated when you spent about like 3.5 minutes sucking off Black Ops 3 at the beginning of this video. Like, that isn't an overcomplicated mode. I mean, Black Ops 4 certainly isn't the most simple of zombies modes, but I'd say it's more casual friendly than Black Ops 3 was because A, there's more maps for the people to get invested in, B, there's actually a fucking tutorial that will tell you what to do and how you're supposed to play the game, and C, options like casual mode exist.
The game launched with 4 maps: Voyage of Despair, 9, Blood of the Dead, and Classified, which on paper sounds good, right? The more the merrier. Well, wrong, actually, because quality is greater than quantity.
Only a fanboy could somehow take a game having more content and therefore more value for your money and twist that to try and make you think it's a bad thing. Quantity versus quality? Okay, I get where that argument is coming from, but luckily Black Ops 4 maps have both of that. Okay, maybe Blood of the Dead wasn't all that great. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a bad map, but I can admit that one wasn't a great map. But the others, awesome. Voyage of Despair is a pretty good map. Classified is a great map. 9 is easily in the top 5 best zombies maps ever. So you cannot convince me that somehow it was lacking in quality. And yeah, the quantity was definitely there.
I would rather have 2 quality launch maps than 4 lower quality maps. Take Black Ops 3 for example. The 2 launch maps were Shadows of Evil and The Giant. Shadows of Evil was a large, complex, innovative experience that wasn't necessarily beginner friendly, but contrastly you had The Giant, which was a remaster, was familiar and straightforward.
And it was locked behind the Season's Pass, which you had to spend $50 on, in addition to the $60 you already spent on the base game. Now, like Tim said, Shadows of Evil is a really good map, but at the same time, it's not very casual friendly. The thing is, the casuals are probably not the kind of people to spend money on the DLC until they're satisfied that the base game is fun. But if they don't enjoy the only map that's in the base game, which by the way is a very complicated map, they're probably not going to buy the DLC. And listen, I know somebody in the comments is probably going to say something like, well, you can buy the Giant for just $5, and while that's definitely true now, when Black Ops 3 first launched, it was not the case. You had to buy the Season's Pass to get access to the Giant. They only made it available to buy separately, I think sometime after Horizon Drop release. It was a couple months after the game launched. In Black Ops 4, however, you have 4 maps. Now granted, to get Classified you had to buy the Black Ops Pass for $50, but even if you didn't buy that, you still had 3 maps, which is certainly nothing to sneeze at.
Map selection welcomed all, and also didn't overwhelm you with too many. At the launch of BO4, you were overwhelmed. You had 4 maps to choose from, 4 Easter eggs to choose from, 2 different storylines to try to follow, and it was never clear from the beginning which storyline we should prioritize.
Okay, this is a genuine question for anyone watching this video. Were you overwhelmed with the amount of maps in Black Ops 4 Zombies? Because I wasn't, and I don't think any sane person would have been either. If anything, I was impressed that I had so much content to enjoy. Believe me, this kept me happy for months on end. And when this game was in its prime, I was still in high school when I had a lot more time to play video games, and I still did not get bored of Black Ops 4 Zombies. Like here, Tim is just insulting everyone's intelligence right now, like they're incapable of making a fucking decision on what maps they want to play. Like how about, I don't know, people probably just try the maps and then they'll like play the ones they like more? If they don't know which order to try the maps in, they could always go, oh, I don't know, left to right. Is this really a novel fucking concept? Seriously, it sounds like Tim's the kind of person who would complain when he orders like a 6-piece chicken McNuggets over at McDonald's and he opens the box and finds that there's actually 7 of them inside.
Chaos or ether. Was this game all about ether with a side chaos story, or was it all about chaos with an ether side story? We didn't really know which one was going to end first. Blood of the Dead and Classified were mere remasters. Should we be anticipating more in the future, or is that it? And not to mention, the community was divided from day one. With 4 maps and 4 Easter eggs to choose from, people were more divided than ever. BO4 had made many changes from the previously successful BO3 engine. They took a lot of features out and put a lot of new ones in. There was an entirely new perk system, specialist system, gobblegum system, HUD, health and difficulty systems. Nearly everything had been scrambled around. About a month has gone by now. The Easter eggs had been solved, the hype had died down, and this is when people began noticing and criticizing these changes that they were too busy and occupied to have complained about earlier. We'll start with the biggest change, the perk system. In previous Zombies installments, you walked up to a perk machine with its own dedicated style, personality, and jingle. You purchased it, and it gave you a specific ability. Depending on which map you were playing, there were upwards of 9 perk machines. This granted the player in-game variety. If they went down, they could get back up and get a new set of perks. They weren't limited if they wanted to change their mind.
Okay, granted, he does have a point here. You can't change your perks in the middle of the game in Black Ops 4 Zombies unless you have secret sauce, whereas you could in the original, but to do so, you have to go down and waste one of your 3 valuable quick revives. Also, I don't know about you, but personally, I don't really change my perks in the middle of the game all that often. Like, maybe when I'm first starting out on a new game and I'm trying different perks, see what combination works for me, maybe. But once I find what works for me, I usually don't deviate from that, and the only time I really change my perks is if A, I'm out of quick revive, so I just replace what would be in my quick revive slot with something else, or B, maybe if I get an explosive weapon, I might swap one of my perks out for PhD, but that really wasn't relevant past Black Ops 1 since Treyarch didn't really like to add PhD as a perk.
Of course, some perks had priority over others. For example, Juggernog was a perk that pretty much anyone in any game purchased because it was a no-brainer. Jason Blundell and the team at Treyarch decided that they wanted to eliminate crutch perks and have perks be a more preference-oriented system. So by eliminating crutch perks, it would come down to personal preference, and it really just depended on your own playstyle. They were all equally effective and equally powerful, it just depended on who you were. If you're a player that's more prone to downing, Dying Wish might be your choice. If you're a player who enjoys melee weapons, Ethereal Razor is your go. Treyarch decided enough was enough and they were going to get rid of these crutch perks. They were going to get rid of the core 4 perks and implement them into the game and have the regular perk system be totally personality driven. By pack-a-punching your weapon 5 times, you would obtain the double tap ability. By purchasing all 4 perks, you would obtain the speed cola effect through the modifier. Quick Revive's original ability had become obsolete due to the implementation of self-revives, and the entire concept of Juggernog was removed from the game. You would spawn in with a default 200 HP, which you could then increase or decrease by changing the difficulty. By doing this, Treyarch had hoped that every perk had an equal chance of being selected, and that the original 4 perks weren't being selected over and over and over again, taking opportunities away from other perks. Theoretically, this new perk system is genius, but in practice, it's not. It only caused more issues. Issue number 1 is that Treyarch took away our beloved iconic perks. See, Juggernog is a staple within the game mode. It's so iconic that people who haven't ever touched a controller and haven't ever played the game mode would probably recognize it. Juggernog, Quick Revive, Speed Cola, Double Tap, believe it or not, it's a part of the player. We're so attached to it. It's been in so many Zombies maps up to this point. When it gets torn away from us, we feel lost, and in a strange way feel betrayed. How dare you take away Juggernog? You still have Juggernog, you still have the 200 HP, but it doesn't feel the same.
Okay, maybe they don't feel the same, but that doesn't change the fact that you no longer have all 4 of your perk slots being clogged up by the same 4 perks every game, since they're no longer actually in the perk system, and instead are relegated as passive upgrades. Maybe you have a point with Jug simply because you spawn in with it instead of having it be an upgrade, but the rest of them, no.
Back in the old days, you didn't spawn in with 200 HP, you spawned in with much less. You were vulnerable, you got hit 2 or 3 times and it was game over. You had to be very, very careful, you had to keep your distance, you had to collect points, and then purchase Juggernog. It was very, very nerve-wracking until you got Juggernog. But what happens in Black Ops 4 is you spawn in the game with 200 HP, not having to worry as much about the zombies hitting you. You never feel vulnerable at the beginning of a game. You also have a specialist and equipment immediately. Issue number 2 is that no matter how hard you try to erase crutch perks, they will always exist. Dying Wish is a good example. Dying Wish has become the crutch perk of Black Ops 4. It grants you 1 extra life. It's in a way like Quick Revive. That became a staple in many people's perk selections. Stamina Up is another great example. Many people run Stamina Up, I would say the majority of people, because of its effectiveness in this game. Personally, I pick the same 4, maybe 5 or 6 perks every single time. I never stray away from that. Even in a perk system where everything is equal and up to preference, I still pick the same 4 perks. What Treyarch failed to consider with this new perk system is that people like to attach themselves and get comfortable with one setup.
Yeah, that's the whole fucking point of this new perk system, is so that people can choose a setup that works for them. You pick the same 4 or 5 perks every single game, well, that's perfectly fine. I do the same thing. Well, my setup depends slightly on each map. Like, I'll run Stamina Up on the larger map, like Blood of the Dead or Tog der Toten. But on smaller maps, like Classified, 9, or Alpha Omega, because the maps aren't that big, I don't really run it. Instead, I'll run something like Bandolier Bandit instead. The difference here is that what everybody considers their optimal perk setup is different from person to person. Unlike in the previous system, where it was almost always Juggernog, Speed Cola, Double Tap, and Quick Revive. Or, if you're playing co-op, you could substitute Quick Revive for something like Widow's Wine, but besides that. And I will say, it didn't completely eliminate crutch perks, but it did mitigate them, because in Black Ops 4, there's only 2 crutch perks. That's Dying Wish and Victorious Tortoise. Dying Wish is basically just a recharging self-revive, except you don't lose your perks. So yeah, that's kind of broken. And then Victorious Tortoise allows you to just pull out your shield whenever you're in danger, and you can just survive anything. Besides that though, there aren't really any other crutch perks. You cited Stamina Up, which is definitely useful perks, especially on the bigger maps, but it's not necessary. In fact, my perk variety is way larger in Black Ops 4 than it is in any other COD Zombies game, besides maybe Cold War, but that's just because I can get an unlimited amount of perks. For example, Deadshot, which was previously one of the least used perks because you didn't want to waste a perk slot on it, is now something I use quite regularly because A, the modifier on it is really good, and B, since I'm not clogged up with the crutch perks, I have room to run it. And every time I go into public matches, since you can see what everyone's perk loadout is before the game begins, I can see that a lot of people choose vastly different perk loadouts. Some people like running Mule Kick, some like running Bandolier Bandit. Hell, there's even a lot of people that like to run fucking Death Perception. So I don't really buy this argument that this is somehow removing choice. If anything, it just gives people more choice because, like you said, they can run the perks that they want rather than the ones they need. And as for not being able to swap out what perks you're using in the middle of the game, like I said earlier, there's not that many people that change what their perk loadout is but after they initially set up anyways, even in the old system. The only ones that I know of that actually did this are those who are new to the game and are trying to figure out what perk setup works for them. And for those people, there's this wonderful perk called Secret Sauce, which will give you a random perk, and you can rebuy it as many times as you like to get a different perk in that slot.
People aren't going to randomly select 4 perks every single time they play zombies. They're far more likely to select 4 that they enjoy the most and stick with that for a long time. So in all reality, this entire system didn't fix anything. And nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to pack-a-punch their weapon 5 times, costing a grand total of 15,000 points to get their weapon at its fullest potential in damage. Nobody wants to do that. It's much simpler to put it in once, like the good old days. By fixing this crutch double tap perk problem, all you've done is create an entirely new one that's even more difficult than the other problem.
I find it really fucking ironic that this dude is bitching and moaning about having to spend 15,000 points to pack-a-punch in this game when he literally praises Cold War's pack-a-punch system where you have to spend 50,000 points to get your gun to max damage. Hypocrisy much? In fact, let me go hunt down the clip for y'all just so y'all know just how big of a fucking hypocrite this man is.
There are 3 levels to pack-a-punching. There's level 1, the base 5,000 pack-a-punch. There's then level 2 for 15,000, and then there's level 3 for 30,000. That totals 50,000 points to upgrade your weapon fully to level 3. This, I don't find a problem. I don't find a problem, and nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to pack-a-punch their weapon 5 times, costing a grand total of 15,000 points to get their weapon at its fullest potential in damage. Nobody wants to do that.
Alright, he then goes on to talk about how the perks machines just don't really have any personality, and I kind of agree with this one. The Aether perk machines, definitely no personality. The Chaos perk statues actually do look pretty cool, but they're not really tied to a specific perk, so I guess I see where he's coming from. I'll just skip past this.
Special. Yeah, I would say Dying Wish is better than a perk like Death Perception, but not miles better.
So wait, earlier you called Dying Wish a crutch perk, but now you're saying it's not that much better than Death Perception? Well, which is it, dude? Also, no, Death Perception is nowhere fucking near how good Dying Wish is. I mean, don't get me wrong, Death Perception's ability is useful, but it's not something I'd waste a perk slot on.
They're all relatively middle-of-the-pack perks. You no longer have to prioritize anything, and you can't meme on the shitty perks. Everything is just the same. It's like communism. I would say this new perk system sort of fixed the crutch perk issue, but by doing so created many, many more problems, so not really. Now let's talk about the specialist system. In BO3 zombies, you had to go on a quest. You had to complete a list of tasks, oftentimes not very easy, and it did take a while, but by doing so you were rewarded with a very good specialist weapon, which would sort of tag along with your main wonder weapon. You did not need to obtain the specialist to have a fun high round survival, but it was ideal, and it also rewarded the players who did choose to go the extra mile. In Black Ops 4, however, you spawn in with the specialist. You don't have to go on a quest to do it, which is relieving, I suppose. But again, by fixing one issue, you've created many more. You spawn in the fucking map with a Hammer of Valhalla. You spawn in the map with the Chakrams of Vengeance. You spawn in the map already invincible.
Okay, I'll agree that spawning in with the specialist weapon was fucking stupid. But you're not invincible because, keep in mind, you still have to charge up your specialist weapon in order to use it, and when you activate it, you can only use it for roughly 15 seconds before you have to put it away and recharge it by getting regular kills. Besides that, though, I will agree with you with the specialists.
Of 200 HP and a specialist, not to mention the Wraith Fires, the Acid Grenades, the equipment. There is no vulnerability at the beginning of the game, and it destroys all progression through rounds. It used to be that you had to collect points and strengthen yourself round by round until by round 30 you would be some sort of demigod. You already are the demigod by round 1 on BO4. The zombies increase in difficulty, but you stay the same.
Yeah, no progression besides, you know, the guns, the perks, the pack-a-punch, leveling up your specialist weapon, doing side quests that give you cool, unique items such as the steak knife, the music box, the Pegasus strike, you know, stuff that's been progression in literally every other zombies game. Like, yeah, you start off stronger than you do in previous games, and yeah, maybe you do start off a bit too strong. But trying to act like that there is no progression at all is just a fucking lie.
It totally destroys the progression of the game. Honestly, why even buy perks? Go straight to the Pack-a-Punch machine. You may as well upgrade your weapons because you already have 200 HP. You see what I mean? It totally destroys the progression and the flow of zombies in which we were familiar with and worked. Once upon a time, you would buy a wall weapon, save up a bunch of points, buy the perks, hope to God that you got the wonder weapon through the box, and then make your way to Pack-a-Punch. Nowadays, it's totally flipped on its head. It's totally inversed. You spawn him with Jug, you spawn him with the Wonder Weapon, you don't even need to go after perks, you go straight to the Pack-a-Punch machine, and you don't even have to worry about anything.
Did this motherfucker just try and claim that you can skip perks? I mean, maybe for a bit, but you're gonna have to get them because A, the speed cola upgrade that you get when you get all 4 of your perks, B, the perks themselves are actually really useful. Like, didn't he just call Dying Wish a crutch perk, like, closer to the beginning of the video? I'm not the only one that's noticing this, right? Also, he completely fails to mention the modifiers in the perk system, which add a lot more strategy that he's just not bringing up at all, because that just doesn't fit the narrative of Black Ops 4 bad. And no, you do not spawn in with the Wonder Weapon. You have to either go on a short little side quest to get it, or pull it from the box. And that's something else. Black Ops 4 allows you to choose which one. If you want to spin the box to get the Wonder Weapon, you can do that on every single map with the exception of, I think, Ancient Evil and Alpha Omega. And if you want to go on a quest to get the Wonder Weapon, kind of like Origins, Der Eisendrache, Zetsubo no Shima, well, you can do that on every map. Granted, on Classified, you do need to have either frag grenades or acid bombs equipped to get the free Winter's Howl, but besides that, you can just do a quest, or you can spin the box. It's up to you.
The new perk system and the new specialist system are perfect examples of fixing things that aren't broken. That's what this entire game is. That's what the entire premise of Black Ops 4 Zombies is. Fixing things that aren't broken to begin with. Innovating for innovation's sake. We can't bring back the 4 core perks. We can't bring back what was working for all of these years. We need to implement something new. Going on a quest and working hard to obtain a very powerful Wonder Weapon? Nah, fam. Spawn in with that shit. And it's all tied together with this disgusting HUD. And you know what I love most about this game? The zombies themselves. I love the tracking. I love how they swipe at you and literally stop you in your tracks while you're running. I love how you can't train them properly anymore because half of them are sporadically running around with their dicks chopped off, not being consistent zombies, just randomly throwing themselves around. And I love how when I'm running, I see them spawning in front of me. I love their predictability. They can spawn in front of you, they spawn from behind you, from your sides, they spawn all around you constantly, and they respawn if you walk 50 feet away from them.
Okay, I'm just gonna real quick address all these claims he just made because they just range from ignorant at best to downright fabricated at worst. So he says that the zombies hitting you causes you to stop in your tracks. My only explanation for this is that he was playing World at War Derice, hit his head on a rock or something, and thought he was playing Black Ops 4 because that's literally the only map that this occurs in. Their movement was made slightly more erratic to make the game more challenging, but if you cannot train in this, I'm sorry, but that's just a problem with your own lack of skill rather than the game. I can train just fine in this game. It definitely requires you to pay more attention because you can't just train the zombies around with one hand, not even looking at the game, because again, you have to be able to react, but you're given plenty of time to do so. As for the zombie spawns, zombies will spawn in a certain radius around you from available spawn points, and they will despawn when you get too far away from them, because then you'll end up on a situation where you're on one side of the map, the last zombie is on the other side of the map, and it's gonna take fucking forever for it to shamble all the way towards you. This is how it's worked in every other zombies game, so you can't say that now in Black Ops 4 it's suddenly a problem. Because if it's a problem here, then it's also a problem in World at War, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, and Black Ops 3.
The Black Ops 4 zombies make it impossible not to have a shield. And speaking of shields, you have to continuously pay for them. If it breaks, you gotta pay more. And then the next time it breaks, you gotta pay even more than you did the last time, and so on. And it just goes on until you're paying 100,000 points for a fucking shield. A free shield? No, we gotta fix that. Consistent zombies that you can actually train? No, we gotta fix that.
No, you're not paying 100,000 points for the fucking shield, dude. The shield cost caps out at 5,000 points. And the new shield system exists to create a skill gap. How it works is when you build the shield for the first time and you pick it up, it's free. Every subsequent time, you gotta pay for it. Now, the cost will start out low, like 250 points. Each time you buy the shield, though, it'll increase in price, eventually capping out at 5,000 points. But there's two things to keep in mind. The first is that you can repair your shield even when it's damaged but not completely broken for half the cost that it would be to replace it. And number two, carpenters now repair your shield for free. This means that if you are a skilled player and you can keep your shield intact to get to the next carpenter, you won't have to spend a penny on your shield because the carpenters will repair it for free. And even if you think your shield's going to break before the carpenter happens to come by, you can repair your shield for half the cost instead of having to wait for it to break and then having to buy it back at full price. It adds an element of strategy. If your shield is low on health, do you think you can survive long enough to get to the next carpenter? Or do you play it safe and decide to repair your shield for half the price it would be to replace it? This, along with the more challenging zombies to train, keeps the game more engaging because you're not running in the same circle like you were in previous zombies games.
And of course, on top of all of this, microtransactions had to sneak their way into this game as well, this time being elixirs instead of the fun gobblegum system we once had. Elixirs are nothing short of boring. The classic ones are pretty useful, and I do use them, but only them. I haven't used a single mega elixir. Not one talisman either. I swear on everything I own and love, I haven't touched them. They're just not as fun. They're not as loose and as comfortable as those gobblegum. We were all so familiar with those. And then these elixirs are just knockoffs for the most part. I just find it difficult caring about the elixirs or even using them to begin with. To unlock these elixirs, you need to obtain Nebulium Plasma. Is that how you say that? What was wrong with Liquid Divinity?
Now, yeah, microtransactions in this game being game altering kind of sucks. But you said that you don't want to use your mega elixirs because they're not that much more useful than the classic elixirs. Well, that's actually a good thing because it means it's not nearly as pay to win as Black Ops 3 was. In Black Ops 3, I think the gobblegum system was a good idea on paper, but the problem was that it was monetized. Gobblegums like In Plain Sight and Alchemical Antithesis were pretty good supplements. But then you had shit like Perkaholic, Shopping Free, Near-Death Experience, etc. that literally broke the game. And your only way to get that was to either spend thousands of hours playing the game, grinding out Liquid Divinium, or saying fuck it and shilling out money to Activision. While that's technically true for the elixirs, and there are a few that are noticeably more powerful, since there aren't so many of them that are game-breakingly powerful, it's not nearly as bad as it was in Black Ops 3, where using those gobblegums completely broke any and all challenge. I'll admit, some of the mega gobblegums in Black Ops 3 were pretty fun, but that doesn't change the fact that they were monetized and therefore even more pay to win and therefore worse than these elixirs. Like, the thing is, I wouldn't even really bat an eye of him complaining about the microtransactions in Black Ops 4, except for the fact that he shills for them in Black Ops 3 when they're worse.
Yeah. The inconsistencies bother me. They changed so many names, but don't change all of them. They changed Electric Cherry to Electric Burst, but not Mule Kick. They changed Deadshot Daiquiri to Deadshot Dealer, but not Quick Revive or Stamina.
Okay, the reason why they changed the name of Deadshot Daiquiri to Deadshot Dealer and Electric Cherry to Electric Burst has to do with the Chaos story, since they have perk vapors rather than perk drinks. Like, it wouldn't make sense to have a perk called Deadshot Daiquiri when it's not a drink, but rather it's a vapor. And the same goes for Electric Cherry because, well, cherry flavored soda versus vapor. Stuff like Stamina Up or Mule Kick, however, their name isn't exactly a reference to a drink or a flavor, so those will still work as vapors. Not really a criticism of your video here, just clearing something up.
Changed all the double pack variants to different names when we all know that Brain Rot is Turn. We all know that Kilowatt is Deadwire. You're not fooling us. Oh, and I totally forgot about the new point system. Damage-based points. God, did we need that?
Yeah, I completely agree. I have no idea why they felt the need to change the point system. Like, this new point system is just worse than the old one in every way. I'll agree with you there. There's really no reason for them to change that. Like, with some of the other changes, even if I don't prefer them, I can at least understand what Treyarch's thought process was with them, whereas I just don't get why they changed the point system.
Pretty much every core mechanic of BO4 Zombies was fixing an issue that wasn't an issue to begin with. The BO4 engine is, in my opinion, total garbage.
Oh boy, I knew we would get to this eventually. The whole talk about the Black Ops 4 engine. Yeah, it's because of dumbass YouTubers like Tim Hansen. It's not just him, there's other people that do this. But it's because of people like him that suddenly the zombies community is so obsessed with the engine of all these games. But if you hate the Black Ops 4 engine, well then you must also hate the Black Ops 3 engine, the Black Ops 2 engine, the Black Ops 1 engine, etc. Because guess what? Every Call of Duty game between Call of Duty 4 and Black Ops 4 run on the same engine. It wasn't until Modern Warfare 2019 where a new engine was developed for Call of Duty. See, this whole complaint doesn't even really make sense at all because, like, it's very obvious he has no idea what a game engine is. And it's also very obvious he doesn't have any idea about what COD's game engine is specifically, because if he did, he'd know that all these games are running on the same fucking engine. And the thing is, engines do not dictate gameplay. Here's an example. What do Everspace 2, Octopath Traveler, and Borderlands 3 all have in common, besides the fact that they're all video games? That would be they all run on Unreal Engine 4, yet they play nothing alike. Engines do not dictate gameplay. So what do these game engines do? They handle things like logic, physics, audio, and 3D geometry.
And you know what? How about them graphics? A total downgrade from BO3. Now, some people will tell you that BO4 graphics are better than BO3, and though that may be true, I'm doing the eye test. I look at Black Ops 3 gameplay, I then look at Black Ops 4 gameplay. BO3 graphics are better. I don't know the fine details of it, I don't know the technicalities of graphics, but what I do know is that when I look at the two and I juxtapose them, I see that BO4 is a downgrade. And it's 3 years after BO3, so that's sort of an issue, I would say.
Okay, I understand preferences in visuals are more subjective, but in terms of the actual fidelity, it's really not that noticeable of a difference. Hell, for the longest time, I thought Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4 looked really close to each other in terms of visual fidelity for the longest time, and it wasn't till I looked very closely at some of the textures that I noticed that Black Ops 4 has a few that are a somewhat lower res. Again, the difference is pretty small, but it's only really noticeable if you're looking really closely at the textures. And I just figured, okay, maybe I'm just not noticing it because I'm playing on an Xbox One, like the 2013 launch model, which statistically has the weakest hardware of all the systems that Black Ops 4 launched on. So I figured since everything is at the lowest quality on Xbox One, that the differences weren't as noticeable. But then I very recently got an Xbox Series X, and playing Black Ops 4 on it, honestly, the difference is even less noticeable on Xbox Series X, which is, by the way, the world's most powerful console. Like, again, with the textures, you definitely have a point. But things like reflections and use of color just look better in Black Ops 4. And I can say this with a lot more confidence now that I have a next-gen console. And besides, wouldn't it make sense for the textures to be downgraded? Like you said, this game came out 3 years after Black Ops 3, closer to the end of the life cycle of the Xbox One and PS4. Since the game is more technically demanding, wouldn't it make sense to slightly lower the texture resolutions just to increase performance? I mean, keep in mind, Black Ops 2's textures were noticeably lower res than Black Ops 1. In fact, I'd say the difference there is even more noticeable, but I didn't really care all that much. And honestly, if you think Black Ops 4 looks bad, then you must really hate Black Ops 1, 2, and World at War.
Honestly, I could go on and on and on. I'm probably going to be forgetting a few things, but I will say one final thing about the gameplay, because I've been going on for a while and I don't want to make this an hour-long video. You cannot relax on Black Ops 4 Zombies. You can't. It is overwhelming 100% of the time. Take a look at this Dead of the Night gameplay. Does this look relaxing to you in any way, shape, or form? Look at this madness. Look at the chaos this is. No pun intended. I'm trying to hoard up zombies, the same as I've been doing for the past decade of my life playing the game mode. And as you can see, nothing is cooperating.
Okay, I have a question. If you're trying to relax, then A, why are you playing Zombies, which is meant to be a more challenging arcade-style survival game, not really a relaxing game? B, why are you playing on Dead of the Night, one of the tightest close quarters maps in all of zombies? C, why are you training in one of the tightest areas on the map? Like, seriously, go train in the mausoleum or the forest. You'll have a much easier time. Trust me. D, it's round 28 and you haven't upgraded the wonder weapon past Alistair's Folly. Like, you haven't even gotten the Chaos Theory yet, which makes this a whole lot easier. Really, it looks like the issue is with your lack of skill rather than the game. But if you want to relax in Black Ops 4 Zombies, well, you can do one of two things. The first is play on casual difficulty. This obviously just makes the game easier, which in turn just makes it easier to relax. If that's what you're trying to do, then there's no shame in playing casual difficulty. B, if casual difficulty is not to your liking, then there's this wonderful mode called Custom Mutations. There, you can tone down things like zombie speed, zombie damage, spawn rates of special enemies, etc. Also, I find it ironic how he's complaining that he can't relax in Black Ops 4 Zombies when Black Ops 3 Zombies is easily worse in this regard, considering how the zombies in that game are literally on crack and can hit you from half a mile away. Now, I don't really consider that to be nearly as much of an issue because, again, Zombies is not really supposed to be a relaxing game. But considering that, again, he spent like the first 3 minutes of the video sucking off BO3, it just strikes me as very hypocritical.
You have these little shits, these little Nosferatus running in left and right, making my life a living hell. You have the werewolf spawning in every now and then. You have the regular zombies. And then, of course, you have the catalyst zombies. The catalyst zombies are total and utter horseshit. All they do is ruin this game. Take them out and all I see is improvement. I don't care that the game has been out for a year. Treyarch, take them out and I will give you mad props. All right. Not only do they run around sporadically and the tracking is broken, but you have to adjust your play style in so many different ways in such short time.
It's almost like that's the entire point of adding special enemies. It's to test your skills in different ways. Otherwise, the game would just get monotonous and boring, and this is actually one of the reasons why I like Black Ops 4 Zombies so much, is because the special enemies keep things so interesting. And really, of all the options you had to pick from on Dead of the Night, you chose to single out the Catalysts, which are probably the best designed special enemies on Dead of the Night, and attack that. Really, you couldn't go after, oh, I don't know, the vampires, which are actually kind of annoying. What the Catalysts do is they make you prioritize targets. And that's a good thing because it means you're no longer just mindlessly running in circles. Maybe the water catalysts buff the enemy's health too much, and on Voyage of the Spare they do spawn in a bit too often. But besides that, they're really well designed. Red catalysts are like the napalm zombies from Shangri-La, except they're not as dangerous. Water catalysts are like support units. They don't attack you directly, but if you leave them alone for a while, they'll power up a bunch of other zombies, and you can have a really tough time if you don't prioritize correctly. Poison catalysts are area of effect damage guys that will chase after you and slowly drain your health. Lightning catalysts are projectile-based enemies. They won't actually damage you, but they'll briefly blind you for a couple of seconds, but they have a very obvious wind-up to their attack, and it's a very limited range as well, so if you're paying attention, you can easily avoid it. Because it incentivizes prioritization of targets so much, I find the game to be very engaging, kind of like games like Halo or Doom. Now, I understand that might not be your cup of tea, but if you don't like the catalysts, there's a really obvious solution. Just go into custom mutations and just turn the catalysts off. If that's your big issue, then that should just solve the problem. My point being, there's a difference between something that's actually poorly designed and something that's designed well, but just not to the tastes of you. For example, I don't really like the map Shangri-La all that much, but I can tell it's a well-designed map, and I can see why others might like it.
When I see a werewolf spawn in, I go, oh fuck, I gotta grab silver bullets. I gotta go deal with this. This is gonna take a long time to chip away at. Meanwhile, I have 700 Nosferatus coming my way, and I have regular zombies, which are already overwhelming to begin with, and then I have catalyst zombies. I have that little shitty poison one that blows up, and I have the electric one that blinds me for 30 seconds. It's just too much. It just is. So pretty much everything about the gameplay, the engine, the core mechanics, the zombies themselves, Nearly everything was a change, and not a change for the better, and that is one of the major reasons why BO4 failed. But there's a lot more to it than just that. Let's shift our attention away from the core gameplay and look at the map variety. There are 8 zombies maps in this game, 4 of which were launched, and the other 4 being DLCs. The 4 Chaos maps are Voyage of Despair, 9, Dead of the Night, and Ancient Evil. Personally, I find Ancient Evil and 9 to be top 10 maps. I think they're beautiful in their own ways. You then have Voyage of Despair and Dead of the Night, which prove to be some of the worst maps. But what all 4 of these maps share in common is that they are part of the new Chaos storyline. One of the main reasons why BO4 failed is because this Chaos storyline wasn't very intriguing.
At this point, he starts going on about the Chaos story and how he doesn't like it. I understand stories in video games are a lot more subjective than the gameplay of whether or not you'll actually like it. I'll just say I actually enjoyed the Chaos story. Tim didn't, and yeah, that's fine. While I liked it, he does bring up a few good points, so I'm not really gonna bore you with this, I'll just speed past it.
The Ether storyline, 4 maps, Blood of the Dead, Classified, Alpha, Omega, and Togder Toten, and there's sort of a reoccurring theme amongst all of those maps. They're all remasters. Not a single original Ether Zombies map has been produced since Gorod Krovi.
Number 1, they're not remasters, they're reimaginings. A remaster takes an original map and recreates it faithfully with very minimal changes. I mean, there are probably going to be a few changes, like, for example, the Chronicles maps added gobblegums and swapped out all the guns for Black Ops 3 guns. But besides that, they basically play the same as their original version, maybe slightly differently, but Black Ops 4, on the other hand, takes the layouts of old maps and reuses them to create new maps. The Black Ops 4 Aether maps play nothing like the maps they were based off of. Okay, maybe you could make an argument for Classified playing similarly to 5, but for the others, no. As proof of this, a lot of people consider Mob of the Dead one of the best maps of all time, and Blood of the Dead as one of the worst maps of all time. I'm sorry, but that big of a change doesn't happen from just a simple remaster. Number 2, yes, there has been an original Ether map since Gorod Krovi. It's called Revelations. Number 2, I'd argue Alpha Omega is actually pretty original, because only about, 15% of the map was taken from Nuketown Zombies and Black Ops 2, the rest of it is all new. And number 3, with the exception of Classified, all of the Aether maps in Black Ops 4 are big quest-style maps, whereas the maps they were based on were simple survival maps. Okay, maybe not Mob of the Dead, but Call of the Dead and Nuketown Zombies were simple, challenging survival maps in their original form, but in these reimaginings, they're big quest-style maps with lots of things to do. Now, the layouts might not be original, I'll agree with that, but they look, feel, and play completely differently.
Wow. Technically, these maps are reimagined and not direct remasters. They did change them quite a bit, and they do feel a lot different, but there wasn't much innovation to them. My theory with Black Ops 4 is that when Activision inevitably told Treyarch to make a simple cash grab for them, Treyarch didn't really know what to do with the story, so they decided to make an entirely new one in Chaos. They made 4 relatively uninteresting maps, some of which were beautifully designed, but in the grand scheme of things didn't mean much.
Whoa. I know you did not just call the Chaos maps uninteresting. Okay, maybe Voyage of Despair, as I do think there was a lot of missed potential with the whole sinking Titanic atmosphere, but 9, Dead of the Night, and Ancient Evil are some of the most visually distinct, impressive, and interesting maps ever made.
And realizing that the Chaos storyline wasn't intriguing or fulfilling enough, decided to add 4 remasters in to fluff out the rest of the game, because remasters always sell. So they took 4 maps in the past that hadn't been, Call of the Dead, Mob of the Dead 5, and Nuketown, threw them in the BO4 engine, and called it a day. They did the bare minimum. They weren't passionate about any of this because, like I said, they were limited on time and resources. Threw these maps together under duress and called it a day, and I think that's so apparent, especially through the Wonder Weapon variety.
No, Tim, they did not do the bare minimum like you claim they did. If they really did the bare minimum, then all they would have done is taken those original maps and ported them into Black Ops 4 with minimal changes, kind of like what they did for Zombies Chronicles in Black Ops 3. But that's not the case. All of these maps look, feel, and play completely differently from the maps they were based on. And yes, they were very passionate about this. A playthrough of Alpha Omega or Tog der Toten will tell that to you.
On Blood of the Dead, you had the Blundergat return with a new Magmagat variant. I thought that was pretty cool, but it's not groundbreaking. On Classified, the Winter's Howl returned. On Alpha Omega, you had the Raygun Mark II return with elemental upgrades. And on Tog der Toten, you had the Wonderwaff return with a scope this time, and a Thundergun return. There's just no innovation. And
so, concerning the Wonder Weapons, the Blundergat and the Acigat returning, I guess makes sense since it's a reimagining of Mob of the Dead, and adding a variant, I think was pretty cool, like you said, but not groundbreaking. Winter's Howl returned. Personally, I give this one a pass since Black Ops 4 actually made it very useful, unlike in Black Ops 1 where it just felt like you were shooting snowflakes at the damn zombies. The elemental ray guns on Alpha Omega, though, were really great. And I guarantee you would not bat an eye if these guns functioned exactly the same but had like a different model. But even though they perform differently, you're gonna cry, "My unoriginal," because they reused the model for the Raygun Mark II, instead of, you know, wasting precious development time creating new ones. As for Tog der Toten, it's the last map in the Aether Zombies story, so it makes sense to have the Thundergun return. The Wonderwaff, however, it's a different type of Wonderwaff, one that functions very differently. It has a lot more ammo, but in order to chain multiple kills with a single shot, you have to get headshots, which adds a nice skill curve to the weapon and makes it very fun to use. And you didn't even mention the Tundra Gun, which feels more like a snowy rocket launcher. It can damage you, but as long as you keep your distance, it's not really an issue.
Black Ops 4 Zombies failed because it was unoriginal. It lacked innovation. Half of the maps were remasters. There was a relatively uninteresting story and Easter eggs to tag along with that. There was a new tasteless perk system, there was an overpowered specialist system, an unnecessarily complicated HUD. Pretty much everything about the game was overly complicated, overly thought out, and it really seemed as though there was a lack of true identity or purpose within this game mode. The game fixed so many issues that weren't even issues. They were focusing on trying to innovate so hard that they ended up breaking everything in the process.
Personally, I don't think they were trying to fix what was broken as much as improve upon existing concepts. Sometimes that didn't work too well, but I think they succeeded in others. At this point, he just briefly touches on all the points that he made throughout his videos, stuff I've already responded to, and honestly, there's not really much point in me playing the rest of it, because, I mean, I've basically already responded to the claims he's making here, since he made them earlier in the video. It's just a conclusion, so I'll go ahead and end the video here. And wow, this took a long fucking time to make. Like, by my calculations, this video's nearly an hour long, and if you're still here after all this, then big shout out to you. You're fucking awesome, and I love you. And just so we're clear, I'm not hating on Tim Hansen here. I think he's a wonderful human being and a great content creator. I just happen to think that this video specifically isn't exactly all that great because, again, a lot of his points just seem to be very ignorant and unconvincing. Please don't go out and hate on him. Criticize his points, but don't be a bully, okay? That's not cool. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more, and tell me what you think of this whole debate. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with Tim? Some combination of the two? Do you agree with neither of us? Let me know in the comments. Anyways, that's it. Peace!